is 1280. London. A dock worker pulls a single penny from his pocket and trades it for a fist-sized meat pie. No table, no fork, no dignity whatsoever. He's standing ankle-deep in what we'll generously call street water, takes one bite and grease explodes everywhere. This is medieval fast food. Today we're going to recreate an authentic medieval meat pie. But more importantly, we're going to use this greasy little pastry to decode the entire power structure of a medieval city. Let's go. So first things first, we need a recipe. Here's the problem. Medieval Europe had a literacy rate of about 5%. Most cooks couldn't write their own names, let alone a cookbook. Everything was passed down orally, father to son, master to apprentice, whispered over smoky hearths for generations. No food blogs, no TikTok, not even a scribbled note. But history always leaves breadcrumbs, pun intended. Our first clue comes from England, 1390. A manuscript called The Form of Cury started circulating in the royal court. It was compiled by the master chefs of King Richard II. Yes, the same Richard who would later get deposed by his cousin and probably murdered in a dungeon. His cooks, however, were excellent. On page 87, we find a dish called tartelettes. Take pork or beef, mince it fine, add eggs, dried fruits, saffron, season with salt and spices, fill into pastry, bake until golden. Saffron. In the 14th century, that stuff was worth more than gold by weight. Obviously, this is rich people food. Street vendors weren't exactly sprinkling liquid money on their products. Our second clue comes from guild records. In 1379, the London Bakers' Guild issued a document specifying what a legal pie must contain. Pies shall be made with wheat flour crust, filled with minced meat, beef, mutton, or pork acceptable, seasoned with onion, herbs, and fat. The use of rotten meat, diseased animals, or organs of unknown origin is forbidden. Wait, why did they need to specifically forbid rotten meat? Because people were using it. A lot of people. So many people that they had to make a law about it. This document tells us three things. First, street pies used cheap minced meat, not premium cuts. Second, the onions and herbs were there to mask. Let's call it freshness issues. Third, the government was already regulating food safety. We'll come back to this. It gets wild. Our third clue comes from France. Around 1393, a middle-aged Parisian man married a young wife and did a very medieval husband thing. He wrote her an instruction manual on how to be a good spouse. It's called Le Ménagier de Paris, and it's exactly as patronizing as it sounds. But buried in all the how to properly serve your husband nonsense is a goldmine of actual recipes, including something called paste. Take flour and water, knead into dough, roll flat. Season minced meat with salt, pepper, ginger, add lard for moisture. Wrap filling in pastry, seal edges, bake. Cooking time, 1 Ave Maria. That's right. Medieval cooking times were measured in prayers. 1 Ave Maria is about 2 minutes. Now let's put this into practice. Imagine it's 1250, and you're a pie vendor named William. Your father sold pies. Your grandfather sold pies. 3 generations, same tiny wooden house in East London. It's 4 a.m. and you're already awake. Not because you're ambitious, because you don't own an oven. See, medieval cities were death traps. Wooden houses packed together like sardines. One stray spark and half the neighborhood goes up in flames. The Great Fire of 1212 killed over 3,000 Londoners. So the city banned private cooking fires, unless you had a stone kitchen, which only nobles could afford. If you wanted to bake anything, you had to use the public oven. The oven belongs to Thomas, a licensed member of the Bakers' Guild. Every morning, he fires it up and lets neighbors use it, for a fee, of course, or a cut of whatever you're making. Medieval Uber Eats, basically, except you do all the work and someone else takes a percentage. Let's break down how William makes his pies. The flour isn't the refined white stuff you know. It's coarse, grayish whole wheat, gritty between your fingers. William dumps 2 cups into a wooden bowl, adds a thumb-sized chunk of lard, and rubs it in until the mixture looks like breadcrumbs. Then cold water, a little at a time, until the dough comes together. Here's something important. The crust isn't meant to be eaten. In an era without plates or Tupperware, the pastry shell was basically an edible container. It was made thick and hard, sturdy enough to carry around and preserve the filling. Rich people ate the meat and threw away the crust, or gave it to servants. Only poor people ate the whole thing. So if you want authentic medieval crust, remember, less fat, more structural integrity. The meat comes from the Butcher's Guild, freshly slaughtered that morning. No refrigeration means you've got maybe 3 hours before things get sketchy. Street vendors can't afford the good cuts. Beef shank, lamb neck, pig face, the ugly bits that don't sell well. But here's the thing. Mince them up, season them right, bake them hot, and suddenly you've got something special. Processing the filling is brutal work. No meat grinder, just 2 cleavers, alternating chops until the meat turns into a sticky paste. Then the seasoning, salt, pepper, dried herbs, onions, lard. The trick is to go heavy. Medieval meat wasn't as tender as what we have today. You needed serious flavor to cover the character. Plus, street food needs to hit hard. You've got 1 second to hook a passing customer with the smell. William divides the dough into egg-sized balls, rolls each one flat, drops a spoonful of filling in the center, brushes the edges with egg wash, folds, crimps, and cuts a few slits on top to let steam escape. A skilled pie maker can crank out over 100 pies in a morning. William isn't the fastest, but his hands carry 3 generations of muscle memory. Every pie comes out the same size, same thickness, same shape. Now the baking. Public ovens don't have temperature controls. Thomas tests the heat by sticking his hand inside and counting to 3. If he doesn't get burned, it's medium. William slides his pies into the oven. Then he prays. Literally. 3 Ave Marias, about 6 minutes. 6 minutes later, he opens the oven door. A wave of heat hits his face. The pies have turned golden brown, slightly puffed, with little beads of fat glistening in the slits. Perfect. It's 8 a.m. now. London is waking up. Apprentices rush to workshops, merchants arrange their storefronts, dock workers haul sacks back and forth. William sets up at the bridge and starts yelling, "Hot pies! Fresh meat pies! 1 penny!" First customer, a mason, hands still covered in marite, slaps down a coin, grabs a pie, starts eating while walking. Second customer, a maid, done with her morning shopping, spending her errand tip on a little treat for herself. Third customer, a young man in a scholar's cap, probably a broke student from Oxford or Cambridge, chewing a pie while squinting at a scroll. By noon, all 100 pies are gone. Revenue, 100 pennies. That's 8 shillings and 4 pence. After costs, William clears about 3 shillings. That's actually good money. Enough to support himself, his mother, and save a little on the side. Maybe in a few years he can apply to join the Bakers' Guild and become a freeman, a full citizen. That would mean the right to live in the city permanently, the right to vote in city elections, and most importantly, the right to never be dragged back to some lord's estate as a serf. All from selling meat pies. Okay, let's zoom out from William's story and look at the bigger picture. Why did the meat pie become the iconic food of medieval cities? The answer lies in 3 words: space, fire, and power. Medieval cities were nothing like what you're imagining. No wide boulevards, no skyscrapers. Just narrow alleys, low wooden buildings, and streets that smelled like, well, let's just say the sanitation situation was developing. A city of 50,000 people might cover less than 1 square kilometer. Everyone crammed inside the walls because outside meant bandits, wolves, and war. The average house? Ground floor was your shop or workshop. Second floor was the bedroom. Attic was storage. The whole thing may be 200 square feet. Family of 5 or 6. Kitchen? What kitchen? First, you don't have the space. An oven plus ingredient storage needs at least 50 square feet. An impossible luxury for most families. Second, you don't have permission. City authorities strictly controlled fire. In 1189, London's mayor issued a decree. All new buildings must have stone walls and tile roofs. No fireplaces or ovens in wooden structures. This wasn't really enforced. Most people couldn't afford stone houses anyway. But private ovens became extremely rare. Enter the cookshop. These were basically medieval fast food joints. Ready-made hot meals, meat pies, roast chicken, stew, pea soup. A penny fills you up. For city dwellers without kitchens, cookshops weren't optional. They were survival. Apprentices ate breakfast here. Craftsmen bought lunch here. Bachelors got dinner here. A 13th century London mayor once complained, "Young people these days would rather spend money at cookshops than learn to cook for themselves. This is a sign of moral decay." Now, where there's a market, there are scammers. Medieval food fraud was creative, I'll give them that. Sawdust and sand in bread to add weight. Dog meat as lamb. Spoiled meat drowned in spices. Beer watered down, or worse, spiked with toxic herbs to fake the buzz. People got angry. Riots happened. So the authorities stepped in. In 1266, England passed the Assize of Bread and Ale, possibly one of humanity's first food safety laws. The rules? Bread weight must correspond to wheat prices. If wheat costs more, bread can shrink. If wheat costs less, bread must grow. Beer ingredients and brewing methods must meet standards. No harmful additives. Violators face punishment, and medieval punishment was memorable. Minor offenses meant fines. Major offenses meant public shaming. Here's how that worked. They'd strap you to a wooden board, hang your evidence around your neck, and parade you through every major street while the whole city jeered and threw things at you. In 1327, a London pie vendor was caught stuffing rotten rabbit into his pies. His sentence, 1 hour in the pillory, followed by a public burning of all his pies, positioned so the smoke would blow directly into his face. Brutal? Yes. But these punishments marked something important. The city was developing public authority. Not the king's authority, not some lord's authority. Authority derived from collective will. We want safe food. We want fair markets. Anyone who cheats us gets destroyed. This is the birth of urban governance, the embryo of modern government. But the real power in medieval food supply wasn't the mayor. It wasn't the law. It was the guilds. Guilds were basically medieval trade unions, meets cartels, meets political parties. Same industry, same organization. Baker's Guild, Butcher's Guild, Brewer's Guild, blacksmiths, tailors. Each had its own headquarters, its own patron saint, its own annual festival. More importantly, each had its own monopoly. Take the London Bakers' Guild. Only guild members could sell pies within city limits. Only guild members could hire apprentices. Only guild members could set prices. Only guild members could import and sell spices. They controlled everything, raw materials to production to sales. Want to join? Here's the path. 7 years as an apprentice. You work for a master, learn the trade. Room and board provided. Salary, 0. Then a few years as a journeyman. Now you get paid. but you're still working for someone else. Finally, you submit a Masai Shumatat masterpiece, a demonstration of your skills. If the guild approves, you become a master yourself. Only then can you open your own shop. The system had upsides. Quality control was real. Cut corners, get expelled, lose your livelihood forever. The downside? Innovation died. Anyone trying to change tradition got crushed. But here's the crucial part. Guilds were political power. In many medieval cities, only guild members could vote. The Baker's Guild has X votes. The Butcher's Guild has Y votes. That determines who becomes mayor, who makes laws. Your profession determined your political identity. William the pie vendor, if he never joins a guild, remains an outsider forever. He can live in the city. He can't shape it. This was the medieval urban power structure, a free market on the surface, a closed network of insiders underneath. To get ahead, skill wasn't enough. You needed connections, capital, patience, and a little luck. So why does any of this matter? Why should we care about a greasy medieval pastry? Because the meat pie represents a completely new way of living. In the early medieval period, most Europeans lived on manors. The manor was a closed, self-sufficient system. Serfs farmed the land, raised cattle, wove cloth, brewed ale. Everything produced belonged to the Lord. The Lord gave some back to the serfs. Money was meaningless in this system. You couldn't buy bread with coins because nobody was selling bread. All bread was baked by the manor and distributed by head count. But starting in the 11th century, things began to change. The Crusades opened trade routes between East and West. Spices, silk, and jewels flowed into Europe. Cities revived. Populations concentrated. Labor specialized. The merchant class rose. Currency circulated faster. And more serfs discovered something. If you escaped to a city and lived there for a year and a day, you became a freeman, forever free from your lord's control. There's a medieval German saying, Stadtluft macht frei. City air makes you free. These former serfs became workers, apprentices, vendors. And for the first time in their lives, they experienced something new. Trading money for goods. Sounds obvious today, but it fundamentally changed human relationships. On the manor, the relationship between lord and serf was domination and submission. The lord gives you food. You give the lord labor, not exchange, obligation. But in the city, William and his customers have an equal transaction. Money for pie. Neither owes the other anything. This is the essence of market economy. Every person is an independent individual, meeting each other's needs through voluntary exchange. Starting from a single meat pie, extending to an entire city, then to all of Europe. This was a quiet revolution. No wars, no bloodshed, just countless people voting with their hands and feet. I will leave the manor. I will go to the city. I will trade my labor for the life I want. If you enjoyed this, hit subscribe and leave a comment telling me what food you want me to dig into next.